Welcome back to the dopest show you won't get sick of. I'm Spencer. This is Sasha. I spent most of my 20s in federal prison, but I've been off heroin since April 9, 2010. Got a lot of stories about the dumb stuff I did to get put in prison, the crazy stuff that happened while I was in prison, and God forbid you end up in prison. Want to make some of the same mistakes I made. So, this was a wild one. This was at the medium security at Petersburg. Now, different people could move about different ways there, but if you were Mexican, you had two choices. If you were, well, no, it's pretty much predetermined. If you were in a gang that would fall under the Serranos, which there's a number of gangs that fall under them, like 18th Street, then that's one group. There was a handful, like 30 or so of them, and then there was the Paisas. Now, Paisa, just kind of like, cars or people from states, it's a gang for people not in a gang. Paisas was a gang for Mexicans not in a gang, and it definitely was a gang, and without question it was the most powerful gang at Petersburg that went the hardest. Lord have mercy, did they. And they had certain rules and certain stuff, and if they decided you were going to go, a lot of times they'd warn some people. Some people got the warning, some people didn't get the warning. They don't take that warning, they're going to jump on you. Sasha, come here, baby. Anyway, so here's the story. I ended up in a cell with pretty much who was the number two for the Paisas. My cell, his name was Armando. He was a Mexican immigrant, had a green card, ended up getting caught selling a whole bunch of crystal, and he ended up getting deported. He's out now, but anyway, he was a number two, so I knew stuff. I heard stuff from him ahead of time. And how this whole thing started out, there was a third gang that they allowed to walk. They call them the borrachos. I don't know a whole lot about any of that type of stuff, but that's what they called them. Some of y'all probably know a little bit more than I do about that. Might be a West Coast, I'm not quite sure. But borrachos, there were 5 of them. I worked out with one of them. We didn't have weights at the medium. We lifted dirt. The low security, we did, but at the medium, we lifted dirt sewn up in bags, made of sheets, khaki pants, and stuff like that. And over by the bleachers, they had bleachers by the softball field. We'd work out behind the bleachers. It was kind of a blind spot. You'd have an extra second to hide them because you weren't allowed to work out with these bags that were made. They cut them open and pour dirt out like it was really hurting them for us to lift some dirt and try to work out. More people got out and did positive stuff with their life because of fitness than anything else I can think of in prison that I've seen since they've been out. So I've checked up on some of the people that I knew. But anyway, there was a fella who was a bracho, and there was he ended up going to the hole. This fella had something unique about him that allowed something, and he made some very stupid decisions. He had a smart mouth on him. He was missing a thumb, okay? Didn't have a thumb. And ultimately, when you go to the hole, the shoe, let me give you a layout of it. The shoe is solitary confinement, secure housing unit. It is on the rec yard at the medium security at Petersburg. If you get in trouble at the camp, if you get in trouble at the low, anywhere you get in trouble in the Petersburg complex, which contains a medium, a low, and a camp, all in one complex, all together, you go to the medium security where solitary's at. Obviously, medium security is higher security than the low, and the camp doesn't even have fences, so the medium security is the most appropriate place to place people to where they will be secure. And believe me, you're secure. Stay in your cell 23 hours a day, and you have a shower in the cell. It's not just like an open shower people can see. It looks like a phone booth made out of steel with the front end open, and it's got a curtain on it that covers knee to chest. So there's a little bit of privacy, and people drape the towels over the top part so you couldn't see the upper part. That's how you'd have your privacy. They instituted that after I'd been there. When I first got there, they had full curtains at the low security. At the medium security, it was like a flap in the units, but in the shoe, that's how it was. Now, if you so choose to go to outdoor rec, my entire time in the shoe, I didn't do it because every time you went, the guards would tear your cell up. And being as how I snuck a radio from the regular range to the punishment range, see, when you're waiting on your kangaroo court trial, say you got in trouble for whatever, some type of contraband, you first go to the hole. It's basically like being in jail awaiting sentencing. After you get sentenced and you're on punishment block, they send you to a block in which you're not allowed to have a radio, any commissary. They starve you or anything. The only thing you can have is books. But I snuck a radio back there, so I never went out to outdoor rec once because I didn't want them to take my radio, because they went in the cell and rummaged around. They would have found my radio and took it, and that is a key part of what kept my sanity. But I saw it briefly just as I was entering and exiting the hole, and what it is, attached to the rec yard, the shoe is attached to the rec yard, and outdoor, your hour of rec that you go to, they lead you, you have to handcuff behind your back, walk handcuffed down. They let you in a cage. It's like 15 by 15 foot, and that's what they call outdoor rec. There are walls on every side. The ceiling is a fence, okay? And the room's in the hole too, by the way. You cannot see out. It's frosted glass, so deeply frosted you couldn't even see shadows. You can just barely tell if it's light or dark outside. But there are 3 cages, and they release people in there. Once you are already inside the cage, you put your hands back, they undo you, and then you do push-ups, walk around, or do whatever you want. Well, one of these bronchos, one that had a slick mouth, he was having all kinds of issues with other people, just talking crap. People getting like these arguments, oh, kick your ass when I see you, and you're locked in a hole. Everybody's a gangster when they're locked behind a hole and nobody can get to them. Now, this guy not having a thumb is what led to something that was unique. Now, I heard things secondhand about this, so, I don't know the exact policy of the BOP and all that stuff, but here is what I heard. He talked this crap, and basically, sometimes when people get put in the cage together, they play it off, act like everything's cool, because if the guard hears you yapping at somebody, they're not going to put you in the cage with somebody. It's going to cause a fight. So, they were acting cool, thinking they were going to fight this guy as a fair fight or something like that. So the people get in the cage, the guard locks the cage behind him. He's missing a thumb. He slips his cuffs, and he beats up a paisa out there who was cuffed, who couldn't fight back. And I heard they couldn't enter the cage until, something, I don't know if they sprayed him or what. Somehow, from what I heard from Marcelo Armando, was this happened multiple times. More than once he slipped his cuffs and beat up somebody who was still cuffed, which that's some dirty stuff, especially off just the yap, and over nothing, over just, a de-measuring contest, talking, trying to act like tough guy and all that, and you're beating somebody up who's handcuffed, doesn't even have their hands in front of them. Well, ultimately the paisa said, all right, you want to do that? All your people got to go. They let the bronchos know. They're like, listen, y'all got to go. Y'all got to check in. It's time to go. You got to check in. They're like, we're not checking in, because if you check in, it's like a stigma that goes from place to place. Like if you go to the next place and people heard you were a check-in, sometimes they'll beat you up and check you in again, because it's like a sign of cowardice or something. Odd prison rules and stuff of the sort. So they're refusing to check in, and a lot of the paisas in the middle time were still cool with a couple of these guys, still talk to them. I had just talked to the one, like I said, lifting dirt out there, and Armando was out there, and he got in the cell. He said, listen, here's how he'd say it whenever, and they say different things. Like, it's kind of funny. You know how we say dog, like people say, what's up, dog, and stuff like that? Well, the amigos would say, hey, perro, because perro, that's dog in Spanish. So, it's kind of funny. They'd say that, and they'd call, instead of dog, it'd be, what's up, doggy? Doggy. It's kind of funny, just the lingo place to place. Now, the paisas are like 300 deep, okay? Now, the way Armando explained it to me is if you have an issue, you cause an issue with somebody else, the paisas get that person's back and, handle the issue. But if you caused an issue, you get put, well, first off, they're going to give you, you got to put hands behind your back, and they're going to give you shots to the body. You got to take like body shots from somebody a lot of time while you're standing up against a wall, which is pretty tough, because if you're just out in the open and somebody body shots you, got air to move back into. If your back's up against the wall, it's going to amplify that punch. Best believe that. So that's pretty rough. But on top of that, they had something that Armando called was the front line. So what the front line is you cause a problem, the paisas have to have your back, but you were in the wrong. It's kind of like this, okay? I got a sister, she does something wrong, somebody says something, getting real mean with her, and nah, you're not going to talk to my sister like that, and I'll cuss them out, maybe whoop them, and then when we get in private, I'll be like, now you were wrong, you shouldn't have done that, but I'm not going to let anything happen to you because you're my sister. It's that type of deal. I do this thing where I go down the rabbit hole. I got ADD, but this is a fun story. my sister, there's this little boy, this little dumb boy that lived across the street. And this boy just had no manners, okay? He had an ignorant mom that was like, I'm from wild, wonderful West Virginia, blah, blah, blah. We don't play that way. And tried to act like she was super hard or tough or something like that. But anyway, her son would just walk in our house without knocking on the door. Just walk in. Imagine right now, somebody just walks in your house, opens the refrigerator, gets something out. Yeah, that's a line crossing thing. So, Mom already didn't like him because of that. But this little boy tried to take my skateboard when I was a kid. And my sister, being a good sister, was like, hey, it's my brother's skateboard. And she tried to take it, and he jerked it away from her. She fell down, and he hit her with the skateboard. I said, all right, I got you. I said, here's what we're going to do. I got a plan. I said, you're going to go over there. You're going to push them. You know how, sometimes little kids run up, one kid pushes another one, then they chase each other or something like that. Now, I know it was bad. It wasn't nice of me to do. I mean, this kid's like 4 years younger than me. I was like 12 or so. But he hit my sister with a skateboard, had him be made an example of. So what I did was I said, you're going to go push him. I'm going to be waiting around the side of the house. Whenever he runs around the side of the house, I'm going to check him. So she pushed him, and I was watching, peeking around the corner, and I saw him. As soon as I saw her, I knew he was coming. Boom! I mean, I know it's hitting good talking about it in retrospect. It's immature, but I mean, it's my sister, okay? The rules don't apply when it's family. So I pushed him. I checked him. There's a little hill behind the house. He went tumbled down it a few times. Then as he got back up, I had my sister standing beside me. I poured gasoline in the driveway, set it on fire. Well, before I set it on fire, I said, you ever touch my sister again? This is what I'm going to do to you. And the fire, whoosh, and I said, you're going to be in that next time. His mom came over the house, started trying to raise all kinds of commotion. I'd already told my mom what happened. She's like, I think the best thing we can do is just keep our kids on the separate sides of the street. And she's like, I'm fine with that. She said, okay, well then keep him out of here. He's been walking in my house getting food out of my refrigerator, and you can keep him on your side. So anyway, whole point of that is, my sister, I'd do anything for her, okay? She's my family. These Pisces had that type of mentality, and I respected them for that. They looked out for each other more than anybody I've ever seen in prison, like in terms of truly. I mean, Pisces means countryman. So, but anyway, I believe that's what it means. But anyway, so they have that type of lookout. The one rule I did not like, and y'all aren't going to like this either, but it's just their policy. Armando didn't like it. Was if there's a fight, say Pisces fight jumps off in the unit, they have a one jump, all jump policy. That's how it was at Peter. I can't speak place to place, but where I was at Petersburg meeting, this is how it was. They have a one jump, all jump policy. So say a Pisces gets in a fight with one of the Puerto Rican fellas in the unit. Any Pisces that are in the area are required to jump on that guy immediately. If there's a fight and you don't jump on the guy immediately, you get put on the front line. The front line, if there's a fight and you don't help jump, you get put on the front line first. You're going to get shots to the body, then you get put on the front line. I'm getting ready to explain more about the front line here in a second. And if you cause a problem and they have that, well, this is my brother, you're not going to do something to my brother, and then they get back in private, they're like, you messed up, you're on the front line now. The front line means next time there is an issue, next time we got to handle something, you are going to be on the hit team that's going to go take care of it. And that's how it is. You can either do that or we can take care of you. This is how you make up for it. This is your retribution for your epic screw up. You are going to make it right the next time we have an issue. And man, Lord. It's wild because they claim they're not a gang, but I mean, for real, I talk stuff for what it is. I look back in retrospect and I can be honest about everything. And even with that stuff, my sister, pushing that little kid downhill, I mean, I guess it wasn't the most mature thing, but there's some things that, with family, that's how it is. But they looked at each other like a family, and they stood united. They really did. And they had numbers. They had a lot of numbers. Most of them, for the most part, it was mostly illegals. A lot of the Serranos were American-born Mexicans, Another side story. There was one of them that was born in Mexico but brought over the border when he was like 2 years old, got caught, and he's getting deported. He doesn't know how to speak Spanish. He's lived in America, in the U.S. his whole life, and he gets deported back to Mexico. He can't speak Spanish. What's he going to do? That's another story. But anyway, so I'm talking to Armando, and he's like, listen. And here's how he said. He said, pero, listen. And he do, listen. Tomorrow, and I can't remember what time it was. He says at 540. Don't be outside or on the walkway. He says, stay out of the way. Trust me. If you see a fight, if they go back on the cameras and they see that you were watching a fight, they're going to call you in the office. And guess what's going to happen? They're going to tell you got a choice. You can tell on what you just saw, or we're going to put you in the hole. And they leave people in the hole for a month, 2 months. They leave people in the hole for a long time, because if they saw you on camera say that you see a fight and you're like, I didn't see nothing, then they're going to leave you in the hole. They're like, you're lying. You can just stay in here till you tell the truth. And then they'll write you a shot for lying, which means you're going to lose phone commissary or something like that. So basically, when stuff happens, it's best to be out of the way. I've had somebody get poked up right beside me, and I'm seeing it through my peripheral, but I know, do not look. Do not look, because if cameras see me looking, they're going to call me in. I'm going to be stuck in the hole for a month, 2 months, all because I looked. They can prove I looked. If I don't look, if I didn't see it, that's a weird rule. That's a weird thing to mention. But yeah, when something's happening at their cameras, don't look, because they're going, I'm telling you, you'll get in trouble for just looking at something and then not snitching on it. That's how it was, you know. So program that in. I learned that ahead of time, though, thank God. But anyway, some other people watched, got left in the shoe, did tell, and then they got jumped off, sent somewhere else. But anyway, he told me, and I'm like, what's the deal, man? He said, you know that guy that we were talking to earlier? And I'm like, yeah. He said we was laughing, we was hanging, it seemed like good. He's got to go. He got to go. He know he got to go. He don't want to go, so we got to make him go. And basically, he'd had an issue, and even though he was up in the rankings and all that, he had issues. He's part of this team. Now, ultimately, you know, I'm got a feel for what's going on. He told me what's going to happen. During the day, every 10 minutes on the hour, they open the compound up. You can go to and from rec, to and from education, to and from wherever, only for 10 minutes. Why at 5:40? Why is that time a good time to do this? The reason it's a good time to do it is because they let buildings out one at a time to go to dinner. Once they let that building out, they're free to walk to and from the rec yard, just up and down the walkway. People be on the walkway. It looks like a market. People be selling pizzas they made up, little bowls of fried spaghetti. This guy Dirty, he made some incredible fried spaghetti with chorizo sausage cut up in it. But anyway, they had people on the walkway selling stuff, and as they let the buildings out one at a time, everybody's allowed to move. So it's about an hour that you can just go to and from wherever. You don't have to wait till the 10-minute move, then rush where you're going. You can move wherever during the dinner time. And around 5:40, all the buildings, all 12 units had been released, okay? Now, I've also spoken about this. There's 3 complexes, two units on the ground floor, 2 on the upper part. There's an exterior set of stairs with a fence around it that leads to the 3rd level to go to the 2 on the top. So there are 12 buildings in 3 V-shaped 4-unit complexes. Okay, remember that here in a minute. But anyway, so, you know, I'm waiting. I know what's going to happen. Obviously, you know, it's one of those certain things you know about you don't talk about. You hear about it, you know. Me and him were sillies. We know we're not going to say nothing. Dudes like my brother, I'd say something. Man, I know he ain't going to say nothing anyway. So I'm like, man, am I going to have to find a new celly? What's going on here, you know? So my unit was the only unit of these 3 V-shaped complexes. The rec yard is on this side, and my wall is the only wall. The upper and lower unit, the one wall, is the only wall that you can see the rec yard. I'm on the 3rd floor, so I've got a good view of what's going on outside. So I'm waiting, I'm watching. I'm looking at my clock. I'm like, I might get a show here in a minute. Going to see what's going to happen. And so I don't know specifically which ones are all barachos, you know. But at 5:40, I look out the window, and right below, I see 5-on-1. Boom, beating him up. And then across on the yard way off the other, see him getting beat up too. And then, you know, you hear, they call it the deuces or whatever. They hit the button they got a button on a walkie-talkie. Every officer has it. It's an alert. It lets them know, hey, come here. There's problems here. By doing this coordinated attack, they hit 5 barachos, and they put 25 people on 5 people. So 5-on-1 on each of them. They gots to go. So by doing this all at the same time, they're making it difficult for guards to respond. All the guards, whenever you hit that button on the walkie-talkie, they got some type of sensor or something, and they know where to report to. They all report to that one spot. if there's 5 separate things happening across the compound, they can't report to all 5 of those with the same amount of manpower, which is part of why they did that. They're all they know that they're going to jump these people. It wasn't anything hiding to, and nobody wants to go to the hole. Nobody wants to get sent to another prison. Nobody wants to get. They're going to get a minimum of 30 days good time taken, just for fighting. Commissary visits, you're going to get that taken for 6 months to a year. You're probably going to get 2 of them taken for that, and possibly shipped. So the people that are jumping them, a lot of them have crazy stuff on. Oh, you could buy toboggans like Beanie, and some of them have pulled it over and cut holes in the eyes like the old cat burglar. Some of them had like a shirt tied around their face, looked like a turban almost tied around their face, but they are all, for the most part, geared up to where you can't identify them. Sometimes they use tattoos and stuff. These cameras can see very good. Also, it's going to make it very hard because although they do have an incredible system, they literally, somebody will show up with a black eye. You know, they'll find it that evening, and they'll go on the cameras and trace that guy's moves back for 4 hours. But if there are 5 different situations in 5 different places, it's going to be hard to track where all 30 of these people went. Okay? Because all these people, they're going to beat them up, then they're going to scatter. And that's what happened. And 2, the compound's not locked down. So as soon as they jumped this guy, and they beat him to where he was on the ground not moving, like, you know, blood coming out of his face, they stomped these guys bad. Soon as they stomped them to where, you know, it was pretty much done, a lot of them scattered. And where there's 30 people, good luck chasing 30 people and finding all 30 of them, especially. They got this mask on, and there were places they'd run. So, okay, there are cameras everywhere, but they're blind spots. So what a lot of them did was this. Check this out. And this is nothing that they don't know. They know this. I mean, there's nothing that I'm saying. There was some idiot that got on here the other day and was like, you're giving up the game, blah, 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 because I said something about people strapping food to themselves when they leave the kitchen. Do you know how many times a week you'd see a guard have somebody take it, unstrapping it, and you'd see bags of meat on the ground? This is not anything they don't know, okay? This is a place that monitors the world's worst terrorist. There was an Iranian prisoner that got traded back in a historical trade for U.S. sailors. They monitor everything. They watch everything. There's nothing that I'm saying that's not known. This is all known stuff. But there is a leather shop inside of Indoor Rec. It is, there's no camera in there. There's also a blind spot inside of Rec. There's a couple blind spots, and there's a couple other blind spots. So what the people did is they beat this guy up. They run inside of the leather shop where there's 30, 40 inmates chilling, working on leather stuff. They took off their disguise, and then they left out, then went back to their unit, okay? That's how they got away with it. You see what I'm saying? And this is stuff they don't, of course, they track them right to the leather shop. They see them go in, they see them come out, they see the thing over the face, but they can't find 30 people. So by doing 30 people on 5 people, it decreases the chances of the majority of those 30 people getting caught. And all at once, this all happened. It was crazy, and but it was impressive. Like literally 5:40, boom! They all hit the exact. Like they must synchronize their watches up and everything, and it was like an impressive show of force. Like, I mean, I have to admit, it was wild seeing. You know, you hear about stuff like that in a movie. You know, nobody lost their life or nothing, but it was still pretty neat stuff. You know, it sucks. You know, 5-on-1. I'm never for that, but they told him you got to go. Their buddy beat them up. That's just prison politics. Going to be part of gangs and groups like that. They're part of a gang. You know, it's their gang. So that's what you get with gang stuff. You know. But anyway, Armando made it back, and I asked him, dude, what happened? And he's got this freaking rock that he's dug up at Wreck on him, and he's like, "Here, we got to hide this barrel." And I'm like, "Dude, what is that?" And what he ended up doing with that, I'm like, "We got to get that out of here," because they're getting ready to lock stuff down. They've already locked the door to the unit, but they hadn't locked us in the cells. So we got to get this stuff out. They don't look in the trash bags, you know, whenever you throw trash out. So we got some stuff with this rock, put it in the trash, like clothes and stuff wrapped around it, get rid of it. I'm like, "Dude, what happened?" So, like I said, they hit 5 people at once. Not everybody. 2 of them were out on the yard, and 1 was on the walkway. I think 1 might have been in the kitchen or something. Can't remember exactly. The one that Armando was set to go get was up in the unit. And he tried to get up in that unit, but there was a CO blocking him. Wouldn't let him go, tell him get out of here, him and his buddy. So the guys who were in the unit had to handle that guy, but the people, you can't go in any unit. Okay, there's 12 units. Whatever building you're in, that's the only building you're allowed in. And the guards remember faces. Some of the guards make it a point to remember every face to make sure nobody goes in any unit they're not supposed to be in. So he went all the way up there with the other guy, ready to go in, had a rock ready to smash the guy in the head with it, and got checked by the CO at the door, who is a douchebag. Former professional football player, could bench over 500 pounds. Some of the COs talked about how strong he was and all that, but he was a douche just to be a douche. Giant guy. You weren't getting by this guy, first off. Had some type of injury or something. But anyway, that was the reason they didn't get in there. Got stories about that guy I'll get on another time. So Armando didn't end up getting in there, but about 5 or 6 of the 30 Pisces ended up going to the hole. That was about all they were able to find. The Barachos got sent somewhere else. We're no longer allowed. Every time after that, as soon as somebody got there, the first thing they did, the first thing you do, I saw it 1,000 times, just looking at the window and observing stuff, because my third floor, I'm on the third floor, got a view of the whole yard. You see everything from that up high on the third floor. They'd take them out on the yard, have them take their shirt off, and you'd see 5, 10 of these Pisces surrounded around them pointing, what's this? What's that? Asking them what every tattoo they got is. And they check people real thoroughly, and it was a thing. But anyway, this is a pretty wild one. If you liked it, think I earned it, press the like button. If not, 26 minutes and 19 seconds of your time in which you will never ever get back. For that, I'm truly sorry. I actually had a hilarious video, by the way, that I was going to post today. It was a video of Sasha and Buddy, and I'm rewatching an old show, the show The Americans, about the Russian spies, and Sasha and Buddy were playing, and Sasha will literally have her whole mouth open, and had his whole head in her mouth. And when I played the video back, apparently 2 people were banging on the TV show. So I was like, well, shoot, I can't play that now. People think I'm sitting here recording my dogs playing while I'm watching porn or something. Of course, right when they're in a doing it scene in a TV show, I got this really cool shot of them playing. So it was funny not to mention, though, because when I played it back and I'm listening, I'm like, what's that? And then I'm like, oh, man, can't put that up now. But anyway, if you like the video, press the like button. If not, I'm sorry. Y'all have a good one.